putting himself in the case for best player in the world.
You fall for me like I fall for you.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. It's your boy Dom, and we're gonna get right into things here today. So, today, we are talking about the Golden State Warriors. We're talking about Steph Curry. We're talking about the whole thing. The Warriors are 10-1 to start the season. By far the best record in not only the Western Conference, the entire NBA as a whole, and God, they've looked good. Now I made some videos on them kind of prior to the season starting, and I would like to say I made some valid predictions. Not all of it's true, not all of it's false, but if you guys want to check those out, you guys can. And regardless, though, this team is playing good. This team is 10-1. This team is by far and away the best record in the NBA, with the second best being the Phoenix Suns at 7-3, and then the Bulls and Wizards are both 8-3 out in the East. But yeah, by far and away the best team so far. They're 10-1. Their only loss coming to the Grizzlies, and a lot of it is due to Steph Curry, but a lot of it isn't due to Steph Curry, and we'll kind of talk about that here in a minute. But if we just look at Steph Curry, I mean, this is a guy that only a few days ago set a new record in the NBA for the oldest player to score 50 points and have 10 assists. I'm sure LeBron saw that and probably wants to make something happen. But yes, he did set that record, and he's played good, man. I tell you, he has played some good basketball. In 11 games so far this season, he's averaging 27.4 points, 6.5 rebounds, 6.4 assists. He is also averaging 1.6 steals and 0.6 blocks per game. And his scoring right now is the third highest in his career, only below last year and his 2015-2016 season. Now, it's only 0.1 above his 2018-2019 season, but it is in that 3 to 4 range for scoring per game in his career. And that's crazy to say when you look at a guy that's getting older, and I think we all thought that, as he got older, his game would translate, but he's 33, going on 34 towards the end of the season, and he's still doing it. He's still working hard, he's still making shots, and he's still putting himself in the case for best player in the world. Personally, I would probably give that to Kevin Durant, but Steph Curry, he's right in there. He's been there. He's continues to make his case for it, and I mean, you can say it's him and have a very valid argument. Now we'll have to kind of see how this translates to playoff success, but this team has looked good. As we kind of translate to some more of the roster, obviously Jordan Poole, a big talking point for this Warriors roster this year, and a guy that's really stepped it up, now averaging 17 points, about 3 rebounds and 3 assists on the season so far. This is almost a 6-point jump from last year. Instead of averaging half a steal per game like he did last year, he's averaging 1.5 steals per game. He's pretty much doubled his rebounds and assists as well. And overall has just been a super big bright spot for this team, whether it's off the bench or whether it is starting. Now, he started every game this year, but like last year, he was a good punch off the bench, and I'd assume once, obviously the next guy we're going to talk about here, Klay Thompson, comes back, that, he'll kind of start getting more run, potentially off the bench, as kind of that scoring punch and firecracker to help you win games, and sometimes just take a lead with your bench unit on the floor, which this bench unit has been very good for the Warriors overall. But, yeah, like I said, Klay Thompson, obviously, you see the graphics if you're on Instagram or on Twitter of the last time Klay Thompson played basketball, right? And you see Anthony Davis in a Pelicans jersey, Kawhi in a Raptors jersey, Chris Paul in a Rockets jersey, and you see all these pictures and stuff like that. And it's kind of crazy to think that it's been that long, but this is a guy that don't forget, he's 30, he'll be 31 coming back. Going on to 32 at the end of this season, and he is one of the best shooters of all time. He's arguable to be the best shooter. I think that's by far and away Curry, but there are definitely people that make the case for Klay, in the fact that Curry just does more flashy stuff, but I'm going to give that to Curry hands down. No debate about it. In my opinion, Klay Thompson is the second best shooter to ever walk the earth. Give Ray Allen his props and everything, but he's number 3 behind these guys. And yeah, I mean, this guy should be expected to return, here pretty soon, I'd assume. I know he's anxious to return. I think we kind of see that a lot in the media about how much he wants to return. But, his last season of playing was that 2018-2019 season, where he averaged over 20 points per game. And for the last 5 seasons that he played, he's averaged over 20 points per game. He averaged over a steal per game the last time he played basketball. He averaged about 2 assists and 4 rebounds. And obviously he shot over 40% from 3 for his entirety of his career. He's never shot below 40% from 3. So he's going to be something that this team needs when they can get him back. And it's just going to be a big booster for this team, especially the way some of these guys that they've brought in have kind of developed and meshed with the team, that this should add, I think, another element to what is already turning out to be at least a fantastic regular season team so far this season. Now, again, when we kind of look at this team deeper, you see Wiggins. Obviously, he had a pretty big night against the Timberwolves. We see Draymond, obviously a former Defensive Player of the Year, that seems to have, at least when I've watched a few Warriors games this season, and it just feels like he's in some way turned back the clock. You know what I mean? This doesn't feel like, I feel like for the last few years we've kind of been like, oh, Draymond's kind of old. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know, there's something about Draymond this year where he just kind of feels a little rejuvenated with the team, you know what I mean? The team's winning again. He feels, he's playing more big down there at like the center position and stuff like that. He's playing with more power forwards on the floor. So he almost just feels like rejuvenated, and he looks good on the court. He looks good on the court this year. Stat-wise, obviously Draymond's never been the biggest stat guy, so if you want to call it, yes, he's down in career stats for points, but for rebounds, I guess across the board, he's averaging 7.8 points, 8.2 rebounds, and 7.2 assists. Pretty solid across the board. Now, he hasn't made an all-star team since 2017-2018, and obviously, like I said, those last few years, he's been kind of a dud, to say the least, right? 7 points, 8 points, 7.4 points, only playing 63, 43, and 66 games for his last 3 seasons prior to this year, and just hasn't felt like Draymond. His rebounds were significantly lower than what they are right now. His assists last year were good, but other than that, were significantly lower, and he just hasn't felt like he's brought that same defensive prowess. Now, obviously, I think last year he was like 3rd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. I don't think that should have gone to him personally, but he did get that, so we'll give him his props for that. He didn't win it or anything, but he had recognition for it. But he just feels kind of rejuvenated this year. And then there's a lot of guys down this roster that have just kind of come in and just really found their places on this roster. Nemanja Bjelica, a guy that, for the Kings, he was pretty good. For the Heat, he wasn't talked about as much, you know what I mean? Because he didn't have quite as much of a role, but he was pretty solid. And he's come to this Warriors team and really leaned into his playmaking ability. I think all the bigs on this roster are pretty substantially good playmakers for their size and their position and everything like that. And I think the system leads to that too as well, with a lot of interior passing, kind of in the paint, where sometimes you can just get these beautiful plays that develop where, say, a Nemanja Bjelica or a Draymond Green or even a Kevin Looney or a Juan Toscano Anderson is driving down the paint and they just kind of kick it around their defender, past the help defense to, one of those other guys sitting on the far block, and you're just able to get these easy layups off of this super intricate interior passing that this team has, and it's super fun to watch. I think as an NBA fan, you just like watching this team play because at the end of the day, they fight hard. They're a little bit smaller, so they got to be grittier on defense, you know what I mean? And then obviously they're a fun offensive team. I mean, you have Steph Curry. It'd be hard to not be a fun offensive team, right? But yeah, Nemanja Bjelica, I think, has really leaned into his playmaking. Good shooter for them, been pretty solid. Gary Payton the second, Gary Payton Jr., I'm not sure, but it was Gary Payton the second. I don't know if he's junior or not. I guess maybe he is. Anyways, so he got cut from them and then re-signed. They were like, hey, make sure you, go get a sandwich around the block. We might actually just want to bring you back, to be honest. They brought him back after he got the sandwich. Must have been a good sandwich because he has played pretty well for them so far this year. Been a very good defensive, great guy for them off the bench. He's had some, highlight dunks and stuff like that, and he's just been another rotation piece that you just want to have. Kevin Looney, kind of doing some decent stuff for them. I was watching the Through the Wire podcast. Shout out to that. And they were kind of saying how, like, James Wiseman, when he comes back, he's probably not going to jump into that starting role. And I think the way that this team is played, it's, again, I agree with them in the fact that, it's more likely that for Wiseman to get traded now than ever, really. Because, yes, I think the idea of having Wiseman and what he could be for them and everything like that is greater than anything you'll get back. But he just hasn't quite been what he can be, you know what I mean? Just the team he's playing on, the expectations he's playing for, and some of the players he's playing with don't allow him to be, I think, what we all thought he was going to be. I think when we looked at some of these younger classes, we looked at him, we looked at Chet Holmgren, we said these are, two of the next great big guys that are going to come into the league. Obviously, we're going to have to wait and see on Chet, but obviously he started off his collegiate career pretty solid. I think he had like 7 blocks or something in his first game. But when you're looking at these two guys, you were like, Wiseman, for years prior to the draft, it was like, this guy is going to be something. And same, I think that we've kind of started to look at Chet Holmgren in that same way. But both these guys are going to be guys that need to be top options on their team, guys that need to sometimes just be given the ball and said, dude, go get a bucket, because I think there will be a point in their career where both of them will be able to. Now, maybe Golden State isn't the best spot for that. I think the idea of him there is great. It just hasn't quite worked out to how much you want it to, but I don't even think he's played a game for him this year, so obviously we'll wait and see, and maybe he does come back and he can be a big contributor and have a good sophomore jump for them, and getting him and Klay back could be something interesting for him. And I'm sure Klay would help his development as well, just Klay being able to add some more spacing even to this roster that overall has looked very good, spacing and passing and playmaking wise. But yeah, Kevin Looney played pretty solid so far to start the season. Another guy that's kind of in that power forward center role. Now, he can't really shoot, so he's really a center, but he's kind of small at that center position. But he's a guy that's going to fight for it. He's a guy that he's a Warriors center. He's a Golden State Warriors 2010 center, and that's just what he is. Juan Toscano Anderson, a guy that kind of jumped onto the scene last year for Warriors fans, has continued to play pretty solid this year for them. Like I said, good playmaker, good rebounder, good grit guy, good just rotation player overall. Otto Porter actually has somewhat revitalized his career coming to the Warriors. He's had a couple good games so far and has looked like a solid piece for them. How much his playing time will continue throughout the season, I think, is yet to be seen. If he keeps playing the way he is now, more than likely he'll keep that playing time. But if we get later in the season and maybe we see this team coast a little bit, they bring Kuminga and Moody back up, you could see Porter's minutes dropping off, I think, or even once James Wiseman and Klay Thompson return, we could also see that as well, as I think, sometimes we've kind of seen Otto Porter at that whether it be the 3, the 4, or the 5. Kind of out there in that like 3 power forward lineup they've been running as one of the bigger guys on the floor. Now, if you start to get back some of your better players, maybe some of your lineups change, and maybe some of those other guys are outperforming you, and he doesn't quite crack that rotation as much. But so far, he's been pretty solid for them. Damian Lee up there is one of the biggest bright spots of this team for the year so far. A guy going into his so I guess he turned 29 just recently, but into his age 29 season. He's played in the league for quite a few years at this point. Came in the league in 2017, 2018, and played for Atlanta ever since he's been with Golden State. And has been very, very solid for them. I think when you look at this team and you kind of see sometimes how even with Curry on the bench, this team is still able to operate at a high level, still able to score points, still able to play defense, and still able to look like a really competent and just a decent NBA team, which in the past really hasn't been a thing for the last couple of years. And I think one of the biggest reasons is Damian Lee. I think he's taken some of that when Curry's off the floor and when it's kind of him and Poole running the show and stuff like that. He's taken that, okay, you need a bucket, or time's winding down, I'm gonna take the shot. He's kind of taken that role, and it's been really interesting to see like that role player that is kind of a backup guy kind of jump in occasionally. And sometimes I feel like when you're watching them, a lot of the time some of their best lineups are when he's out there, whether he's playing the 1, 2, or the 3. I think he gets a little bit of run at it all. He's been interesting to watch and has been pretty solid. So yeah, I mean, that's all good things to say about him so far. Again, like I said, a bench guy. In the 9 games he's played so far this season, he has not started yet, but he's averaging almost 12 points per game, and he's just looking like a solid scorer off the bench for him overall. Other than that, Iggy pretty much was nothing for the Heat, was truly nothing for the the Memphis Grizzlies, other than the sad reason that they ended up with Justice Winslow, whose career has gone down the drain ever since his Point Miami days. But yeah, Iggy looks to have some sort of revitalization. Probably a lot of it has to do with the guys he's playing with, the system he's in, what he wants to be playing for. It's kind of all there for him. And yeah, when he's in, Iggy's in, and he makes his presence known, and is pretty solid out there for him. Obviously not the Iggy of old, definitely not the Denver Iggy, but Iguodala has been pretty decent so far, and obviously I want Iguodala. But other than that, you look at the rookies. Kuminga's getting a lot of run in the G League, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't watch the Warriors G League, sorry. I know he's down there right now, though, so hopefully that will bode well for his development. Obviously a pretty raw guy coming into the season, but maybe you can kind of just develop some off the dribble stuff, some scoring stuff, be able to consistently shoot at at the NBA level, and we'll kind of see. Obviously I think his defense will translate pretty well. He's got the length and everything. As long as he just kind of has the mentality for it, he should be fine on that end. It'll just kind of be a wait and see on how that offense kind of comes together. Moses Moody, again, another high pick for this Warriors team this last season, and he's getting a little bit of run with the team occasionally in some garbage time. He's played 9 games. He's only averaging about 2 points per game, but not getting a ton of minutes per game, obviously, as well. Only getting 7 minutes per game and not really being looked at to score. So he comes in, does a little bit of thing, gets a little bit of run against some NBA players, and just moves on after that. Can't complain too much. Obviously, we'll have to kind of wait and see how that happens, if he maybe gets a bigger role, but just due to a lot of these guys stepping up, that just role hasn't been there for him. And a lot of that's kind of due to Damian Lee stepping up, I would say. Damian Lee and Jordan Poole have kind of made it harder for Moody to get some shots and get some minutes, but that's good for this team, I think. It gives him some time to kind of rest on the bench, kind of learn some stuff from some of these guys like Klay, like Curry, and stuff like that, and just kind of soak in the knowledge, and hopefully when they need him to contribute, he's been there at that point and is ready and willing. You know what I mean? Other than that, though, that's pretty much the whole roster. Like I said, love the passing and playmaking from this team this season. I think Steph Curry's making a case for MVP and potentially the best player in the world right now. And yeah, that's about it for this team. Appreciate everybody for watching. I know I haven't posted in a few days, so we're gonna try and get back on track with that stuff. But other than that, it's been your boy Dom, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out.